Imagine a battlefield shrouded in mist, where hundreds of soldiers march into combat and simply never return. No bodies, no prisoners, no clear explanation. During the chaos of the First World War, one regiment's mysterious disappearance captured the imagination of soldiers and civilians alike, spawning legends of supernatural fogs, secret captures, and government cover-ups. This is the enduring riddle of the Sandringham Company, a unit of the British Royal Norfolk Regiment that seemed to vanish during the brutal Gallipoli campaign of 1915. The story begins on the Gallipoli Peninsula, a rocky finger of land in modern Turkey, where Allied forces attempted to break the stalemate of the Western Front. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest videos. In April 1915, British, Australian, New Zealand, and French troops landed on the rugged beaches to open a sea route to Russia and knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war. Instead, they encountered fierce resistance, brutal heat, and disease-ridden trenches. By August, the campaign had bogged down in a bloody stalemate. Among the fresh reinforcements sent to Gallipoli was the 1st 5th Battalion of the Norfolk Regiment, part of the British 163rd Brigade. Within this battalion was a company of men drawn largely from the Royal Sandringham estate in Norfolk. They were gardeners, gamekeepers, servants, and laborers who had volunteered together, inspired by loyalty to their king and country. Because of their close connection to the royal household, they served on the estate of King George V. The press later called them the Sandringham Company, adding an aura of aristocratic intrigue to their fate. On August the 12th, 1915, the Norfolks were ordered to advance across open ground near the village of Anafarta, pushing through scrub and dry ravines to dislodge entrenched Ottoman defenders. The terrain was punishing. Thorny bushes tore at uniforms, and the scorching sun beat down on men already weakened by disease and exhaustion. According to official records, the battalion set off in good order, but soon became separated in the heat and smoke of battle. Witnesses later reported seeing the Sandringham Company press forward into the hills, outpacing supporting units as they chased retreating Ottoman soldiers. Then, in the confusion of gunfire and dust, they disappeared. When the battlefield was secured later that day, no sign of the company could be found. There were no bodies lying in the gullies, no wounded men left behind, no prisoners listed by the Ottomans. Out of roughly 267 officers and men who entered the assault, only a handful returned, and they belonged to other companies. The Sandringham men, about 250 soldiers, were simply gone. The British High Command initially assumed that the missing soldiers had been killed, and their bodies concealed by the rough terrain. Gallipoli was notorious for its confusion. Many units were lost, buried by shellfire, or left unrecovered in no man's land. Yet the complete absence of corpses was troubling. Search parties combed the area after the armistice in 1918, but found only a few scattered remains. In 1919, a graves registration unit located a small cluster of bodies in a ravine, identified by regimental badges as members of the Norfolks, but most of the company was never recovered. Into this vacuum of evidence stepped rumor and legend. One of the most persistent stories came from a group of New Zealand soldiers who claimed they had witnessed something extraordinary that day. Decades later, in a statement given during the 1960s, these veterans described seeing a series of strange, low-lying clouds hanging over the battlefield. They reported that a portion of the Norfolk advance marched directly into one of the clouds, which then rose from the ground and drifted away, taking the soldiers with it. The men never reappeared. This account, though recorded long after the event, fueled tales of supernatural intervention. Some imagined a mysterious fog swallowing the company. Others whispered of alien abduction or time travel. Historians treat such stories with caution. The New Zealand testimony emerged nearly 50 years after the battle, long after memories could have blurred, and wartime myths taken root. More mundane explanations are far more likely. Military records suggest that the Norfolks advanced too far, becoming isolated and surrounded by Ottoman forces. The Gallipoli terrain included deep gullies and dense scrub, where bodies could easily be concealed for years. Turkish troops may have buried the dead in unmarked graves, or the men may have been killed in areas that were never systematically searched after the war. The small group of remains found in 1919 supports the likelihood of a massacre rather than a supernatural event. Another piece of the puzzle emerged when Ottoman archives became more accessible. Turkish reports mention the destruction of a British unit in the area on that date, describing how soldiers were cut off and annihilated by concentrated rifle and machine gun fire. Prisoner records show no large captures, reinforcing the idea of total loss. These documents, though not perfectly matched to British accounts, fit the pattern of an isolated advance ending in disaster. The legend persisted partly because of the men's royal connections. King George V had personally inspected the Sandringham volunteers before they left England, and their disappearance carried a special poignancy for the British public. Families received little information beyond official notices that their loved ones were missing in action. The absence of graves or confirmed deaths left open the hope, however faint, that the men might still be alive. Newspapers speculated about secret captivity or hidden burials, and wartime censorship limited the release of concrete details, allowing rumor to flourish. Modern archaeology has added some clarity. Surveys of the Gallipoli battlefield have uncovered scattered artifacts, buttons, insignia, fragments of equipment that match the positions described in British war diaries. These findings suggest that the Norfolks advanced into a narrow ravine where they were surrounded and overwhelmed. Over time, erosion, vegetation, and subsequent military activity likely obscured the site. The harsh climate and the chaos of the post-war years meant that many remains simply vanished into the soil. Despite these rational explanations, the story of the Vanishing Regiment remains a powerful piece of World War I folklore. It reflects the bewildering nature of the Gallipoli campaign, where poor planning, harsh terrain, and determined defenders produced confusion and heavy casualties. It also speaks to the human need for meaning when faced with loss. A sudden massacre is tragic, but a supernatural disappearance invites endless speculation and keeps the memory of the fallen alive in public imagination. The Sandringham Company's fate also highlights the broader tragedy of Gallipoli. The campaign claimed more than 250,000 Allied casualties and failed to achieve its strategic objectives. The soldiers who died there, whether in celebrated charges or unrecorded skirmishes, were victims of a war that often swallowed men without trace. The Norfolks were not the only unit to lose track of hundreds of soldiers in a single day. They are simply the most famous because of the haunting mystery surrounding them. Today, visitors to the Gallipoli Peninsula can walk the ridges and ravines where the Norfolks fought. Memorials list the names of the missing, including the men of the Sandringham Company, whose official status remains presumed dead. The landscape is peaceful now, covered in pine and wildflowers, but it still conceals the secrets of that August day. Each year, descendants and historians gather to honor the fallen and ponder the unanswered questions that linger more than a century later. The disappearance of the Norfolk Regiment's Sandringham Company reminds us that even in the modern era, war can erase lives so completely that they seem to vanish into legend. Whether they were engulfed by gunfire, buried by the shifting earth, or simply lost to the fog of war, these soldiers embody the countless others who died anonymously on distant battlefields. Their story endures not because of supernatural mystery, but because it captures the heartbreak of families who never learned their loved one's final fate. If this journey into one of World War I's most haunting enigmas intrigued you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more explorations of history's untold stories. What do you think happened to the Sandringham men? Were they victims of a hidden massacre? Or does the Gallipoli battlefield still guard the full truth beneath its quiet hills?